This is Nikon's latest DSLR, the d7500. It's the replacement to the d7200 technically, but it actually reminds me a lot of the d90. And that's because now that Nikon has a true flagship APS-C camera in the d500, its product lineup looks a lot like it did back in 2008 when it had the d300 and the d90. And just as those two cameras shared a lot of technologies, so does the d7500 have a lot in common with the larger d500. So the d7500 simply doesn't need to appeal to as broad a range of users as did the d7200 before it. And yet, it offers the fastest performance the series has ever seen. So in order to ensure the d500 continues to stand out, Nikon removed some higher-end features from the d7500 that 71 and 7200 users had really grown accustomed to. The camera looks very familiar, but there are several exterior changes, both large and small. One detail we like is that the ISO button has been moved from the back of the camera to the top, which is a small change, but it's definitely more convenient. It's on the back, though, that the most noticeable change has been made. There is now a tilt screen, and yes, it's also a touch screen. Now it can tilt up and down, but it cannot tilt out to the side, which means it does absolutely nothing for selfies. So yeah, not sure what Nikon was thinking there. Where things start to go wrong is on the right side of the camera, where we now just have a single SD card slot. Both the d7200 and d7100 could hold two memory cards, so this was a feature that fans of the series had been used to for some time now. Both of those cameras could also be used with the same accessory battery grip, which made upgrading easier. But as you can see on the bottom of the d7500, there are no contacts for attaching a grip. That's right, Nikon doesn't even make one for this camera. One more admittedly less important omission is the lack of an aperture tab on the lens mount. That means if you have some awesome manual focus AI glass lying around, like this Helios 50mm f2 that I happen to have, the d7500 won't be able to meter with it. That means you'll be forced to shoot in full manual mode and either guess and check to dial in your exposure settings, or rummage through your garage until you find your old handheld light meter. Okay, yes, not very many people are going to care about this, and probably what's more important is that the d7500 retains the screw drive autofocus motor, so it will be fully compatible with older AFD series lenses. When it comes to actually using the camera, this is where it gets impressive. It uses the same image sensor, processor, and metering sensor as the d500, and it can shoot at up to 8 frames per second, which is 2 shy of the d500, but 2 more than the d7200. But the burst rate is only half the story. The d7500 also has a much larger buffer, which means you can shoot up to 50 uncompressed RAW files in a single burst. And if you're shooting JPEG, it's basically unlimited. Now that high speed is further augmented by a revamped autofocus system. It's still just the same 51 points, but it works in conjunction with the new metering sensor, which is significantly higher resolution. This improves the responsiveness of Nikon's 3D AF tracking, which we found to work incredibly well during high-speed bursts. Therefore, sports photographers should be very happy with this camera. For everyone else, however, there doesn't seem to be a big reason to consider it over the now less expensive d7200. Image quality on both cameras is superb, although the slightly lower resolution of the d7500 helps it reach a higher maximum ISO, so it might have a small edge in low light conditions. Otherwise, the difference between the 20.9 megapixels of the d7500 and the 24 megapixels of the d7200 isn't going to make a big difference. Both are great sensors. There are also improvements in video. The d7500 gets the same 4K mode as the d500. It's a nice touch, and after all, Canon's 80D doesn't have 4K at all, but it's not perfect. 4K is recorded from a 1.5x cropped region of the sensor, so you give up a lot of field of view. On the plus side, you can finally change your aperture in live view, so that is certainly more convenient. Overall, the d7500 is a very impressive camera. Unfortunately, it's not one we can automatically recommend because it's really going to depend on which features you need most. If you're after a professional quality sports camera and you don't want to pay the professional price, then it's a good choice. However, the average user might be better off sticking with the d7200. For more information on the d7500, make sure to read the full review at digitaltrends.com.